Good morning, everybody. Eli Perry here. It is approximately 9:45 Prague time on the morning of Monday, 3rd of February, 2025. I wanted to get this information out as soon as I possibly could, once I was sure that it was something I was comfortable putting into the information space, once I had made sure I was not starting a woozle hunt. That's the reason that I haven't commented on a couple of the things I'm going to mention now over the weekend as they were happening. I wanted confirmation of this before I put my name on it. As of right now, nearest best information that I can get my hands on, over the weekend, the Trump administration and its private sector myrmidons, I suppose is the best word, under Elon Musk, gained access to a simply enormous amount of information stored on federal computers. This stuff came through, as of right now, the sources that I can confirm are the Office of Management and Budget, the Office of Personnel Management, and the U.S. Agency for International Development, or USAID. A significant amount of this information, although we don't yet know how much, particularly information from USAID, was classified information. Okay, so this is sensitive, secret, top secret, possibly even top secret compartmented information that people without a security clearance of any kind simply walked in and took. Part of the corroboration that I was waiting for came in the form of a report by Victoria Elliott over on Wired.com, which has identified some portion of the people involved. These people's names are Akash Boba, Edward Korestein, Luke Farator, Gautier Cole Killian, Gavin Kleiger, and Ethan Chautron. None of them is a government employee. None of them has a security clearance. None of them, as far as I know, has ever even been subject to so much as an FFL background check. Most of them are under age 25. One of them is a college dropout. At least one of them is apparently still in university. And they are not in any way employed by or subject to the oversight of the United States government or any United States voter or taxpayer. And over the weekend, they walked into at least these three agencies and helped themselves to a simply enormous amount of information, including, at very least, the social security numbers of every person employed by or previously employed by the federal government, probably the social security numbers of anyone who has ever received any federal government benefit, and possibly all social security numbers, period. Now, I have no way of verifying how big these percentages or these proportions are. Hence, I didn't use numbers. But there is at least a working possibility that a bunch of 19-year-old edgelords and trolls, most of whom have only a few months internship of business experience and have zero private or public sector executive experience at all, have simply walked into a federal agency or several federal agencies, helped themselves to classified information, and walked out. Now, bear in mind, these are people who are working in the interests of a chief executive who has been caught on tape literally waving around the hard copy specifications of a U.S. Navy ballistic missile submarine, showing them off to an Australian billionaire. This is all on tape. None of this is even remotely disputed. And these people now have, at very least, the social security number of every federal government employee, past or present, and potentially the social security numbers of every American, living or dead. What they will do with that information, I don't know. Knowing these types of people and knowing Elon Musk, they may have just been hoovering up whatever information they could get their hands on with the intention of, finding exploitable or actionable material within it at a later time. They may have been looking for something specific and simply not known where to find it. Who knows? But, Americans, your social security number is the golden door. If a person has your social security number, they can take out loans in your name. If they have your social security number, they can acquire passports and other identification documents in your name. It means a little bit more for a passport, but those are paper requirements. And on paper, 19-year-old private citizens with no security clearance are not supposed to be able to access secured information, but they have. One way or another, folks, that information is now in the wind. It is wild. There is a very good chance that your social security number has been compromised. If these idiots decide that they are simply going to be careless with this information, your social security number could be on its way to Hong Kong right now. If they've decided that they're going to be malicious with this information, your social security number is on its way to Moscow or Tehran or to Pyongyang. This is the largest data breach in the history of data, okay? Nothing like this has ever happened before. No idea what they're going to do with any of it. But starting early this morning, my time, late in the evening, US time, we started to see posts on social media from Trump and Musk connected people, including former General Michael Flynn, who was convicted of various charges related to the fact that he was a Russian spy, posting about various private charity groups which are in part supported by federal government grants. In particular, those associated with churches. The first salvo was directed at a Lutheran charity. I think it's pretty safe to say that support for those organizations is on the chopping block. How big of a chunk will get chopped off, we don't know. What kind of information obtained by this data theft, and that is what it is, will be used in those efforts, we don't know. But if I was Elon Musk and I had made a promise to cut the federal budget by roughly half, largely by taking big bites out of the federal workforce, and I was working for and on behalf of a malignant narcissistic psychopath with the IQ of warm soup and a revenge fixation, I could go through that list of social security numbers and correlate those social security numbers and those names with voter registrations, which are public record in most states, and I could simply fire every federal worker who was registered to vote as a Democrat. If I was Pete Hegseth and I was a wife-beating drunken fool, again in the employ of a malignant narcissistic psychopath with the IQ of warm soup and a revenge fixation, who was obsessed with de-woking the US military, I could simply compare those social security numbers and the social security numbers of service personnel with voting records. There's all sorts of stuff that could be done with this. No idea what is going to be done with it. Like I said, they could have just been digging for something and not know where to find it. But this is not good, folks. And what's really scary, and I've left this part for last, when Musk's little teenage punks showed up at USAID, USAID tried to deny them access because this is classified information. And these little shits have no security clearance. The little shits in question were accompanied and assisted by at least 2 US Marshals. The breaking of federal law regarding the security of not just classified national sort of information, but your personal identification and financial information was assisted by at least 2 officers of what is arguably the most powerful domestic law enforcement agency in the entire US. If I tried to do what these little shits did, I would go to prison. Reality Winner did do what these little shits did. And what she stole amounted to a few thousand words. She went to prison. These little fucknuts were assisted, covered for, and lent muscle by the United States Marshal Service. Once again, I wanted to make sure that I didn't accidentally put any bad information out there, so it took me a day or two to respond to this. Keep your eyes on this stuff, people. A lot of these executive orders are just noise. They serve the propagandistic purpose of creating paralysis, just like no reality propaganda does. They do this by flooding your information space with so much noise and so much crap that it's hard to see the moves that are really being made. And there are some big moves being made right now. Don't get too hung up on the executive orders. Watch what they do with those executive orders. Because all this happened over a weekend. Elon Musk was bragging on Twitter about how Doge works on the weekends because nobody pays attention on the weekends. By the way, somebody needs to come up with a better name for us to use online when referring to that, because I don't know what anyone has told you, but they're not a department. They don't legally exist. That's another fun piece of propaganda. Repeat something often enough and people start to believe it. All right, folks, we'll know in a couple of hours what the US stock market does in response to this. That's going to be interesting. No matter what stories you hear about that, as always, don't trust but verify. Just fucking verify.